Ouch, I just sat on my remote control. Now this one would hurt if you sat on it. This was built back in 1939 by Philco Radio Company, and it was one of the first wireless remotes offered for radios back then. It's kind of interesting. I suppose you wouldn't really want to sit on this thing. It has different features. It was actually, it was quite impressive for the time period. They had the volume control, and you could select your different stations that you wanted to listen to, and it was just like dialing an old rotary phone. You would dial the whatever feature you wanted, and it would send out pulses for each one of the features, and then the radio would have a receiver in it to decode that. So it was quite ingenious for 1939 to offer that to the public. And they had remote controls with wires before that, but this was the first one that was actually a true wireless remote that you could pick up and move around your room. It had a huge battery in it. I'll open it up and show you what's inside of it and what it does. This one's in pretty good shape. I got this thing years ago from a friend I used to know, but he didn't have the radio that goes with it anymore, so but I can show you what's inside of it anyhow. So hang on while I open it up and I'll show you how it works. Well, I've got it all opened up now. It only had 4 screws holding the bottom on, and you can see that there's quite a bit in it, but it's actually relatively simple compared to anything that we make nowadays. It's got one tube in it. It's a triode type tube, and they use it as an oscillator, and this big coil is the antenna plus the feedback coils to generate the radio signal that it transmits out to the actual radio to tell it to change channels. It don't have a very big range on it. I believe maybe 20 feet or something. But back then that was quite impressive. People called it the magic box because they've never seen a wireless type remote before. And then inside of here, I don't know how good we can see this. You can see, let's see if I can get this under the light just right. I didn't rehearse this, see. But there's a whole bunch of contact points here, and each point goes to the different function for this channel up front. So then when you dial what you want it to do, I'll show you around back what happens. If you look, you can see there's the spinning fins. There's like a governor to control the speed of it, and then see that arm coming out down on the bottom over the contact points. Then that makes an electrical contact each time it goes over a point, and then as it passes over these, it sends a pulse back to this radio transmitter and actually turns it on, off, on, off, on and off. And then for each function, the further up the dial you go, the more pulses it sends, so the radio would know that, and then it would choose that particular station. And then it was quite an involved setup that they used to actually make it work, and they were very expensive. Only the rich people could afford these back then. It's just too bad I don't have the radio that goes with it. That would be nice. But like I said, this one's in pretty good shape, considering that it's really old, and it does still work. The big battery box used to mount right in here, and it had 45 volts to run the tube and 2 or 3 volts to run the heater inside of the tube, where the glowing filament is. And the battery was pretty big and heavy. I don't have the battery for it, but I'm going to wire up some little batteries and show you that it actually does put a signal out yet, and it's kind of nice. The amount of work they put into the woodwork back then with the inlayments and everything was amazing. It's a nice little box. I've had this thing a long time. I don't know what I'm going to ever do with it, but it sure is kind of neat. And this spinning, oh, by the way, this spinning thing is actually a governor to control the speed of how fast the dial comes back. And this one works pretty good yet. It's in good shape. A lot of them get pretty old and dried up and don't work so good anymore, but this plugs right back into here. So I'm going to try to rig some batteries up here and see if I can show you that it actually does put out a signal. Well, we're all set up for a test run now, and I can show you how this works. What I did is, I don't have obviously the big old battery that they would have had in 1939, but I connected 5 of these 9-volt batteries all together in series. That gives me 45 volts for the higher voltage that this tube needs, and then I took 2 of these little batteries to give me 3 volts to run the filament heaters in the tube. And of course I had to figure out the appropriate places to clip them in here. And then I've got just a regular AM radio sitting here. I had to tune it until I got the station that is the right signal that this puts out. See if you can hear if I activate this, and I find I don't know if it would work. There we go. When it starts transmitting, you can hear it cancels out all the noise and puts out a radio signal. And anyway, so now it's all waiting for a test run here. So I'm just going to dial up a number, and you can hear the static on our radio. And I'm just going to turn the dial here up a couple, and you'll be able to hear the pulses being transmitted over to this radio. And then the more numbers, the higher I dial the dial, the more pulses that this remote control is sending out. And it's pretty much just kind of the same concept that our modern remote controls work on, only these are digital pulses, but it's still a pulsing type system. But in this one, in the radio itself, they would count the amount of pulses, and they were used to counting pulses because they worked with telegraph and Morse code, so they were kind of used to click, 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 clicks, what to do with them. So they built circuits to filter out, you know, the appropriate click to make the radio do a certain thing, and then they had another step of relay, like similar to this one here, that would line up the right contact, and then it would turn on a little motor and turn up the volume control, turn down the volume control. It's pretty interesting to see one work, and I wish I had the radio to go with it. But radios are kind of rare nowadays, and when they were new, they sold, I believe, for around $250 for the complete radio and remote control. And back in 1939, that was a lot of money. So they didn't sell as many of those to it was more of the higher income people, I guess, that bought them. That was a bit before my time, so I can't say for sure. But anyway, it works pretty nice. I had to remove this energy efficient light bulb from my lamp here because that thing made so much noise, it was messing everything up. So I put a regular light bulb back in it, and that worked out good. And like I say, as you dial up the numbers, you can hear it puts out, like here I'm going to go to the soft volume control. It puts out a few pulses, and then I'm going to go up here to a radio station called WGN. And you hear more pulses as it counts back up. It's the exact same way that the old rotary telephones used to work. This thing was from the Milwaukee market, so it has WISN and WLS. That's not, I think that's a lot of Chicago stations, WBBM, WGN, WMAQ, and then WTMJ was Milwaukee. So this was from the Milwaukee, Chicago area where this box originally came from those tags, and the tags are replaceable. Back in the day they came with a whole bunch of new tags. But anyway, and then we go way up, you get a whole bunch of pulses being broadcasted. So kind of an interesting thing. I just wanted to share it with you that we're back in 1939. They called this the mystery remote. It was quite a thing when it came out. So well, I'll see how these video clips worked out. hopefully it's light enough in here, and then I can upload this for you guys. Thanks again for watching. Hope you're having a good day.